They can be in this at any moment. They just gotta up their mental game, let their talent speak.
Amazing placement. What a shot.
That was a Yahtzee overhead.
Aspect of mental toughness here that's just different.
I like the body language of all four players.
Oh, look at that shot! Great hands from Kiro.
Hello and welcome to the 2023-24 APTA Tour presented by Volley. We're live from the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts, bringing you the 2024 APTA Boston Nationals, presented by Aon. Boston Nationals is 16th and the last stop on the 2023-24 APTA Tour, with live streaming brought to you by the APTA membership, the APTA national sponsors Volley and Fusion, and local sponsors Aon, Santo Tequila, Bully Boy Distillers, Columbus Overgroup, Yeager and Kilgore Team, Compass, Hillary Maddox Team, Compass, Crestwood Advisors, DraftKings, FBE Insurance Services Incorporated, Harpoon, Needham Bank, Norfolk and Dedham Insurance, Pure Insurance, UBS, WAC, and Winstanley Enterprises. I'm Mike Raleigh, along with Patty Hogan, bringing you the women's quarterfinals between Halbauer and Niculescu versus Cruz and Lopez. Patty, welcome to the broadcast.
Welcome, Mike. This is going to be an exciting quarterfinal matchup on the far side. Over in that ad court, Gabby Niculescu, deuce court, Ellie Halbauer. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the match. Backing up on the right side of the screen with that gray sweatshirt, that's Liz Cruz and her partner, who has just left the court, but she's really, there she is. She just snuck back in. She's so tiny. B. Lopez. Mike, this is a fascinating matchup. I think tournament number 4 against tournament number 6 seed. And, you know, it's going to be intriguing. These teams have played before. We'll talk about this as that match evolves, and you'll see some of the matchup concerns that every team in the country has when they play. Gabby Niculescu, Mike Raleigh, she's got that roller overhead that does a lot of damage, and it's, you know, many of these women's matches the last couple of years when Niculescu's involved, that becomes the key shot that differentiates who's going to win the match. And it's going to be up to Cruz and Lopez, I think, you know, on the defensive side of it from the baseline to see if they can do something to take away that weapon from Niculescu.
I'm looking forward. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. We'll be playing what sets? Regular scoring here. Our umpire for the match is Scott Gannon, I believe. This is where the tournament, I think, for most of the seeded teams, it gets real, right? I mean, the quarterfinal action, we got, like you said, the 4th and 6th seed. I was looking through the draw, and Cruz and Lopez, they were tested in their last match. They double tiebreakers, I believe, with the 12-10 to win it. It'd be interesting to see if that has an effect, because I didn't think Halbauer and Niculescu had, they weren't pressed in their earlier matches.
Right, and I think what we see across the board here is the top 4 teams in this tournament, you know, have created separation throughout the course of the season, and Burris and Elliott and Henderson Bori, number 1 and 2, have separated themselves actually from our number 3 and 4 seeds. Morgan Sikora pulled victory out today over Delmonico and Gebbia. And so they're the country's number 3 team, and here Niculescu, Halbauer, they've played all year long. It's a new pairing for the sport. Niculescu had tremendous success over the years. We'll talk about her success. She's a former national champ. Last year, lost in the finals of this tournament with Roxy Anika. And she's teamed up with Ellie Halbauer, who's just an unreal talent out of Cincinnati. I think she turned pro when she was 16 years old, Mike. I think she achieved the highest ranking of number 260 in the world. She played the last year's Nationals with Jill Jackson. They lost in the 16th, 7-6, 6-1 to Hanish and Zabori. Halbauer's got it all. She's now that she's kind of cracked the top 4 in the country, I see her playing with a little bit of more confidence, Mike. And I mean, she is the real deal. They're going to be tough. They're going to be tough. I think Cruz and Lopez will have everything that they can handle in this match. I just think that the weapons that I've seen with Halbauer and Niculescu might be too much. But then again, Cruz teamed up with Lopez this season, and Liz is a pretty smart girl. She's a former national champ a couple times, won with 2 different partners. She knows the game inside and out, and she kind of picked a much younger, really fast young partner, which I think, Mike, is the key. When, you get a little older in the sport, you get into your 30s, you got to retool and go young.
30s? What about the 50s? That's why I'm sitting in the booth, right?
That's right. That's why we're both in the booth, Mike. Niculescu, she's from Romania. She teaches at Weber and Country Club. Like we said, she lost in the finals with Anika last year. Gabby's played in the finals of the national championship 6 times. She won the nationals in 2016 with Martina Andreikova. She won the nationals in 2018 with Liz Cruz, interestingly enough, over Hanisch and Cooper. She won in 2019 with Cruz over Barron and Anika. She's been a finalist a couple times with Cruz and Anika. She's a winner of the mixed nationals in 17 with Drew Broderick. She's the real deal, Mike.
Man, oh man, that's quite a pedigree.
Yeah, she's got a resume that we look at with envy.
Can only hope to have a quarter of that resume.
That's right.
I have to say that, shout out to the Saddle and Cycle members, where Liz Cruz is the director of racket sports down in Chicago. I'm sure they're all watching and cheering her on. Fantastic club down there.
Yeah, Liz moved out to Chicagoland 2 years ago, Mike?
I think it's been 2 years, yeah. 2
years from the Patterson Club in Connecticut. Big fan favorite out here, and real tactician. I think she prefers to hit her 2-handed backhand over her forehand all day long. She kind of bunts a lot of the forehands. We'll see if she can bring some pressure. I think if she can bring some pressure, I think that could take the pressure off B. Lopez. I mean, this is a big stage for B. Lopez. She's made, she's improved leaps and bounds this season, Mike, and she seems ready for prime time. And I'm not sure. I think that she probably will feed into the energy that's around this event. Brookline, the country club here in Brookline, Mass, just an outstanding job. And we're over on the side courts where there's a set of 6 courts with a paddle hut in the middle of this. Just phenomenal action all day long, Mike. And then the stadium court, I believe our newest member of the Platform Tennis Hall of Fame is out there right now on another court playing his round of 16 match. And I think we have moved the schedule up. Typically, we'll have the men's semis and finals on Sunday, Mike, but we're going to play the semis tomorrow afternoon on Saturday, so that we'll have 1 match and around 12:30 or 1 for the finals from the country club. And everybody related to this event hopes it's Durant and Mitchell.
The hometown team, right?
They have such support. Mike Johan's induction last night was just fabulous. Really thoughtful, great video put together by the My Paddle team. Johan gave a great acceptance speech, so funny and insightful and really poignant, how meaningful it was for him. But he had some jokes, and he
Sorry, I missed it. And it's a little bittersweet for him because he's effectively left country club, right?
Yes.
Their new venture.
Yeah. Play the winner of Jackson and Maturka or Hanisch and Zabori.
So you said the keys to Cruz and Lopez's victory is managing Niculescu's roller. I mean, talk to us a little bit about how. What do they hope to? How do you stop that big train coming at you?
Maybe you hope Gabby gets a phone call from her husband and she's not paying attention, because that's the only. I have seen few teams negate her overhead. You've got to lob really beautifully. You've got to lob high and deep. Niculescu will pull the trigger on that overhead from 3/4 depth. The way she hits it, she holds her paddle way over. She has a mighty forehand drive, and it's a very similar swing as her roller overhead. And she hits that roller overhead 99% of the time, Mike. So I think it's going to be key for Niculescu and Lopez to actually lob Halbauer. Mike, it sounds simple, but I would just not bring the game toward Niculescu if I'm from the baseline. I think I'd go after Halbauer, who's taller, a little newer to paddle, Mike. Doesn't have the spin variety on her overheads yet.
Yeah, I'm glad we're sitting here talking about it rather than trying to do it. It's like we're ready.
That's Gabby Niculescu serving. Ellie Halbauer has the white hat on. That's a two-handed backhand rocket from Liz Cruz in the deuce court. And there's B. Lopez in the ad court.
Yeah, I had watched Cruz and Lopez play a little bit at the Chicago Charities this fall, and it was fun to see kind of the interaction between the two, just how positive that Liz Cruz was, and supportive and kind of working through. She has a great way to strategize, but also to let Lopez know kind of what their game plan is and how they should be approaching their point play.
Mike, that's a good point. And one of the parts of Johan's induction speech last night, he did share how when he's played with different partners, and when Stephen came onto the scene, Stephen Mitchell is phenomenal. He really made it, made a decision to only say one thing to him in a set. Just let him focus on one thing. And then when he was able to, like Stephen Mitchell, he mastered everything, but one thing at a time, and Johan really wanted to let him play and keep it simple. And I think Niculescu and Halbauer as a team, they're a new team. They're working together to work out the kinks as well and get on the same page, tactically. And I'll look to see if they do stay on the same page, throughout this match. I think Niculescu and Lopez for sure are on the same page. I feel like they're dialed in. They were shooting and hoping they got a shot at Niculescu and Halbauer in the quarterfinals, and it's their wish. So right here we're going to see Cruz out of that deuce court. And so right there, Mike, I cannot tell you, that is 1,000% improvement from Cruz from the last time these guys played. Cruz stood in the green when the lob went up, and she saw it going to Niculescu. She just got herself really close to the side screen, and then just kind of waited and was easily able to come up with that play. And she struggled with that play in the last two times these teams played.
And in both times, did Halbauer and Niculescu, they come out victorious?
Yeah, Niculescu and Halbauer, they've played four tournaments together this year. Short Hills, they lost in the semis to Burris Elliott. Detroit, they lost in the semis to Hanish Zabori. Philly Cricket, they lost in the semis to Burris and Elliott. And in Chicago, they lost in the semis to Hanish and Zabori. Follow it, Mike? They don't lose to anybody else but those top two teams. So that's why it's going to be a tall task for Cruz and Lopez. But the biggest thing they had to do is figure out the matchup with Niculescu versus Cruz. And, that's a great sign for Cruz that she made that play and just committed to a totally different positioning on the baseline.
Well, and she was also able to take it and create some offense and get a volley error off of it, too.
Well, that's the thing about Liz Cruz and the way she sees the court, Mike. I love her wonderful, thoughtful approach where every shot she hits does serve a purpose. You hear commentators talking about probing drives, and really she spots her shots, and she's thinking a couple shots ahead versus just reacting to the play. She's got a plan going on in that brain.
Nice lob from Lopez there.
And you see Lopez, she's got the grip changes, Mike. She's got a ton of racket skills, a lot of variety. she's early, and it just comes down to decision making. She's got wonderful choices to pick from. And so that will be the fun thing to see, in the big stage here, the quarters of nationals.
That's like our sponsor, Aon, making the better decisions.
Mike, you're absolutely spot on, and I think that's why Aon is the perfect sponsor for the national championships here at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. I mean, it's almost as ideal a sponsor as a tequila sponsor. I mean, we've got it all.
Well, the bad news is the more tequila that is drank, I think the decision making probably goes down. So, they kind of fight against each other, but in a weird way, they work together, right?
There's a lot of data that supports that summary you just made, Mike. A lot of it personal, firsthand experience.
Yeah, I lived it, been there. Okay, Lopez might want to put that overhead and put that in the closet. Hard up the middle is not their target, I don't think.
Yeah, there's no way. Niculescu has that range to the middle, and you're right. I don't think you give her 3 of those shots in this match if you can help it. And if she does, then Cruz has to pick up on it and then really close in and get on top of the net for the next volley.
Or just bail, right? So she's not even trying to volley the ball. So where are the safe spots against Halbauer and Niculescu?
Nowhere. No.
Nowhere?
Nowhere. So here's the thing. I think so much of net play, Mike, as you know and how you teach it, you've got to hit balls to spots that you and your teammate can cover the next shot that's coming. Because no one hits a shot out here assuming the point's going to be over on that shot. It's always about hitting a shot and going to a spot on the court and then waiting for the next shot to be hit to you. So I think, I think of it so much of as a shifting game. And that's where as we get deeper in the draw later in the matches, the teamwork comes into it so much. And that's why I think the team who sticks together, both, has the ability to execute at a pretty high level and tactically on the same page, I think will come out ahead, will come out the winner in this match.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, Mike, here you have Cruz hitting the overheads, and, in a lot of these matches, you'll see like Niculescu Halbauer. Niculescu switches herself, gets herself to the position at the net where she's the left of the 2 players so that she can handle 90% of the lobs that are hit to their team. I'm curious to see how Lopez and Cruz come up with this, because right now it looks like they're indifferent as to who's hitting the overhead. But it's an interesting thing if Cruz hits them, because I think she probably will spot overheads that won't create much offense for Niculescu and Halbauer. That puts, Lopez on top of the net, and she's got incredible hands. So maybe that could be a good formula for them.
Look and see what shakes out here in the next couple games.
Halbauer started playing the game in 2021, Mike. I mean, she's in her infancy out here. And she gets plenty of competition out in the Cincy Men's League, where women are allowed to participate.
Are they really? Wow.
They are. What happens in Chicago? Are women allowed to play in the Men's League?
Women are not allowed to play in the Men's League. And I don't know why that is. I don't think it's kind of been approached. I think there's, they seem to get a fair level of competition on Thursday mornings at, Series 1 or 2. So I think they may. I don't know. I that hasn't been brought up to me, at least.
So a break of serve there from Cruz. She's a little bit vulnerable off that serve, Mike. You don't see like a lot of acceleration in her swing. A little bit more of a blocking type of serve. But I think it is critical for them to keep the score close, because I I've always found Niculescu to be one of the greatest front runners in the women's game. Meaning when she gets that lead, she puts her foot on the gas and really tough to come back against her.
Lopez just missed that roller a little wide. Well, and you know, you saw too with Cruz's serve. I believe one of the faults, she was serving and staying back, and
Yeah,
you know, if you're not coming in, boy, it's almost a cardinal sin to miss a serve in the net.
So here we have Halbauer handling a little bit more of the overheads. It doesn't last long, Mike. I always feel like this will go on. Oh, and it definitely
There it
won't.
is. Yeah, right.
That's
That next point, watch him switch. You
Right.
missed one.
So I will see. I've always seen Niculescu just call the switches to get herself over in that position. Yeah, you don't earn that role as the person hitting more of the overheads. I call her the overhead queen. If you dump them in the bottom of the net, that doesn't last long.
So, Patty, if you call the player on the left the overhead queen, what's your verbiage for the partner on the right-hand side of the court at the net?
I call her the volley queen.
The volley, so you
Meaning
got the
if
overhead
there's-
queen and
Yeah,
the volley
'cause
queen.
if there's a drive of life coming your way and the ball goes through the middle and no one touches it, I always say, whose job was it? You know, Mike, when you used to work at McDonald's, if you were in charge of ketchup and I was in charge of onions and you missed the ketchup or I missed the onions, we didn't do our jobs. I feel like if you have designated roles, then it's a way to negate some of the offensive threat coming your way from that baseline team.
Absolutely. And, you know, it helps to know your roles. You know, it's much easier to accomplish the goals and do your task if you know what you're supposed to do.
Right, and Mike, if I were playing with you, you would be the king, obviously.
Oh, I don't know about that, Patty.
You're always the king in my book.
It's getting awful thick in here. Great drive from Lopez.
Mike, right there you see one of the things with Halbauer, not a traditional type of paddle volleyer. There she took a backhand. She's kind of equal opportunity and has a tendency not to shift as much as some of the other top players, Mike. And it exposes a little bit of a forehand volley, which is a little bit much harder to control in this sport than a low backhand volley.
Yeah, and any time that you're forced to reach, you know, whether it's with a forehand or a backhand, but, you know, that reach also kind of, we lose the ability to control the ball as well.
Hey, Mike, you know, talking about good choices, and Aon is so proud to be the title sponsor of the APTA Nationals. Aon exists to shape decisions for the better. Aon provides their clients with advice and risk and human capital solutions that give them clarity and confidence to make better decisions to protect and grow their business. Aon is in the business of better decisions.
I don't know if you could get a better sponsor about making. I mean, this sport is all about making the right decision.
That's right, and I mean the sponsors, Mike. This is extravagant. You know, the 122nd U.S. Open was held here in June of 2022, and the vibe that they have created for this national championship is similar to that. I mean, it's like Ryder Cup, Mike. You know how those big golf events feel. We've got the tents. These guys have they've thought of every single thing. There's food trucks, recovery room for the athletes. There's massages, lots of therapy available to them post-match. Really, really a remarkable setup.
Is there any Santo tequila?
There actually was some going around last night, I noticed.
Okay, all right. So this is where I'd like to see Liz Cruz. There we go. I thought she was going to walk back and just pump the brakes here for Lopez a little bit. Wow, great blitz. On that partner blitz that we just saw there puts so much pressure on the volleyer, especially when they have to volley from below net level. Not only do they have to deal with a tough volley, but then they have to deal with the blitzer. Extremely hard to handle.
So Halbauer Niculescu, number 4 team in the country. And as I said when we came on air, in the women's game, there have been 4 teams throughout this season. Top 2 have been crystal clear, 3 and 4. Halbauer and Niculescu and Morgan and Sikora all year long. And, you can see, here you go, you have Cruz and Lopez. They're in the 5 through 8, but, they're having a tough time coming up with answers here.
And do you think part of that is that we see, like there a missed drive from Lopez, that maybe she's pressing a little bit and, trying to make it that Halbauer and Niculescu put so much pressure that Lopez feels like I've got to do more.
I think
or
so. Yeah.
Bad things are going to happen. It's, imminent threat of a real tough overhead coming at her or their partner.
I love what I'm seeing out of Halbauer here with a much more aggressive type of overhead, and I feel like with the lead that they have, I think this is really smart of Niculescu to actually not call the switch and let Halbauer just become more and more comfortable hitting that roller overhead, because you've got to have that attacking overhead, to win in the women's game. Just an awkward shot. Looked like Lopez lost that ball for a second.
Maybe it hit the seam.
Exactly.
Of course, bad bounce off that screen.
So again, you see Cruz just hiding over there when she, just committing to being out of bounds, and then if the ball bounces down and up, Lopez knows she's got to trail on the play and cover it. So I like how they're setting that up. That's a big time adjustment that they've made. But here's the thing, Mike. You watch Halbauer. I mean, she is handling this match here. It's quite remarkable for such a newbie to be handling it so well. Hey, let's talk about volley. Volley would like to thank the APTA tournament host clubs, players, and pros for an amazing 23-24 season. With over 1.3 million balls thrown this year, Volley creates an opportunity to connect pros and players while giving users personalized performance insights to track progress and improve their game. Download the Volley app now by searching Volley Racket in your app store. For more information, visit getvolley.com/get started. We'll see you all next season. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thanks, Volley. So, Mike, what I was saying is, you just look at Halbauer. I mean, from the beginning of the season till this point, I mean, she's almost dominating play in a way that we're so used to seeing Niculescu do. But I love that Halbauer's stepping up, and I mean, I feel like it's a 50-50 partnership out here, Mike.
Well, it's pretty impressive. I mean, and I had asked you earlier, well, where's the safe spot on the court? And you're like, there isn't one. When she's stepping in there and hitting that roller when they're at the net, off the backcourt, you see all that, very dynamic movement. That's a tough recipe to swallow. It's.
I mean, it's just going so fast, Mike.
And I would say that we got to get Lopez, rather than trying to half volley some of these blitzed volleys, let the ball go through. And it's tough to say, okay, we need length of point to try to air this, take the air out of the ball. But when you give them the net and you're faced with, a multitude of overheads, kind of like, God, where do you go next, right?
And the thing is, a player like Halbauer, because she hits off her forehand and her backhand, and when you said the safe spot, I was thinking about it, the safe spot is about within a foot of the baseline only with that team, or it's to Niculescu over toward that side screen, toward her backhand. I wouldn't put the ball in the middle of the court with Niculescu. And the two-handed backhand from Halbauer. So that's why I think you got to attack national champion a few times, Niculescu's backhand. All right, gigantic point here, Mike.
Yeah, this is big.
They gotta start digging out of this hole here. Yeah, a little bit short serve and just the Niculescu power forehand return to serve. Seen it for years. That's why she's played in the finals of women's nationals 6 times. You can hear the chatter with Liz Cruz. And you referred to it earlier.
I don't speak Spanish, though, unfortunately, but I think I get the gist of what she's saying.
But I love how she is so positive on the court, really encouraging all the time.
Good lob. Need a steady diet of that. Wow. There's that roller you've been talking about.
Well, from Halbauer, I love it, Mike. I mean, and we were talking about it in an earlier match, Mike, and you're a great teaching pro, and when people try to work on a variety of overheads, a lot of times you can get them to do it in a private lesson, but it's hard to get them to try it out there on the league matches or the tournament level, where the top players know the only way they're going to continue to be top players and to advance their games, to keep up with everybody else advancing their games, is to keep adding to their tool chest. Variety. They have to be able to hit an overhead 5 different ways, not just one way, not, flat, hard, or soft. They've got to have the spins, got to have the grip changes.
That is set. We'll be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA YouTube channel presented by My Paddle. Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We are live from the Country Club with the 2024 APTA Boston Net. We're in the round of, the quarterfinals between Halbauer and Niculescu and Cruz and Lopez. That was our first set. Halbauer and Niculescu won that one, ran away with that first set 6-love. I'm Mike Raleigh alongside Patty Hogan. Quite a first set there, Patty.
Yeah, really, I mean, almost a flawless set from Niculescu and Halbauer. How many unforced errors did you see from them in that set?
I was just going through it.
2?
2? I was going to say 2, maybe?
2. I mean, that's why the score was 6-0. Just flawless play, and then, they made phenomenal choices, just like our sponsor Aon. They seem so comfortable out here. I don't think that they feel any kind of like offensive threat from the baseline play from Cruz and Lopez at all. So I think that's freeing them up at the net. And like we said, Halbauer's getting more looks than Niculescu on her overhead, and you can see her overhead's coming into play more, and that's going to be a factor. Earlier today we saw Lalich, like uncoiling on some shots, and she missed a couple, but she made them, and she knows for her to take the next step in this sport, compete against the very best in our sport, you need that overhead. I know I say it a lot, but I think it's the key.
Yeah, and back to your earlier point about kind of the club players and development of their game. There's got to be a balance between, kind of instruction, practice, match play, and then what I'd call stress play, whether that's in, a tournament or their weekly league match. But you got to start, from the beginning and work your way into it. And I mean, when, like you said, Halbauer, we're starting to see her, unleash on some of these rolling overheads and take over even in the backcourt. That it's no different for the top players as it is the Series 12 player in their league. It all starts with kind of the practice, and then they kind of slowly fold it into their play.
And that's there's no excuse now with the volley machine, Mike. I mean,
that's right.
And you can practice anything with that machine, and proof that it works. Did you know that Modik Cherwinski, who we see featured on the volley ads, he and Cherwinski and Nolan pulled off a win over our tournament number 15 seeded team, McGrath and Rose. They pulled that match out, and I think it's all about the volley machine.
Well, and quite
some
a talented team there too. Yeah.
Phenomenal skill.
Yeah. I looked at that match and I was like, that's a pick 'em. Just based on, Modik, and they're so solid that I don't think it had enough points to be a seeded team.
Right, and that's the only reason they're obviously a phenomenally talented team. Nolan played nationals, I think, last year with Graham McNerney. I think they went out in the 16s, if my memory serves me.
I think I called that match. It's Kaler and Rose, maybe?
I think you're right. But you're always right, Mike.
I think it's incredible. I act like I'm right. I just can't even remember what I did yesterday, but somehow that one came back at me a year later.
All right, Mike, so if we could put some earbuds in the ears, Cruz and Lopez. How do they start their comeback here?
Well, I tell you, I'm loving, the length of point here, and they're kind of handling the body blows with these overheads, and when they get their opportunities then to drive, and especially for Lopez to make sure that when she's driving, it's big targets, aggressive to conservative targets, that you can't wait until you're so patient, but then when you get your opportunity that you overhit it. But I tell you, they need more points like this right here.
They need They need every point to last 2 minutes at this point.
Just long.
Shout out to APTA Executive Director Ann Sheedy and her right-hand woman, Isabel Caban. They're working the grounds here throughout the weekend. Isabel is our IT specialist who gives commentators lots of information, so we actually sound like we know what we're talking about, and that we can just easily tell you the successes these teams have had throughout the season thanks to being able to go backdoor on the APTA site with secret passwords this year for the first time that gave us all that information so we can really bring the game to you and give you as much information as possible. Isabel happens to be in the room, and so is Ann. So that's why I took over, Mike. I apologize.
Hey, no, and shout out to Isabel for all her work behind the scenes to make, as the tournament director of the upcoming Team Nationals in Chicago on April 6th and 7th for the women's side. The scorekeeping and the live scoring. She's done a great job of making our job easier, tabulating the hundreds of matches that go into that tournament. So,
and Mike, you're the MVP. If I'm looking at the APT and I look at all the amazing people who are part of the sport, you're one of my MVPs because you took a hold of Team Nationals, embraced it, really helped come up with some amazing formats, and you kind of gave everybody the game plan, and now it's just become the biggest event in our sport with over 800 players last year who participated in the men's and women's Team Nationals. And Mike, it's not too late, but I know you're busy that weekend, but I'm hoping we see some Chicago teams in New Jersey for that weekend, first weekend in April.
Yeah, so for anybody listening that cares to join, the men are out in New Jersey. I think Canoebrook is the host club.
Yes, and I think we're accepting a few more teams.
Still got a little bit room. We are at a holding pattern in Chicago. I got to give a shout out to, I think we have 17 clubs that are giving up their courts in order to make this event happen, and it's I think we have 70 plus teams that are already confirmed and signed up, and it wouldn't happen without the clubs giving up their courts, because it's not a tournament unless they can play, and it's a big ask, but anybody listening out there that makes those decisions, I thank you. Yes. And we'll keep hitting them up, right, Patty?
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. It takes amazing tournament directors like yourself. It takes all the clubs in the community to just buy in and really want to help showcase that region's platform tennis, just the highlights of that program. And I just love the stage that's being created all around the country for every level player in the sport.
And I think that's one of the large changes in the game that the APTA has done is it's not just tournament for the top 60 players, men and women. It's you've got PTI nationals, you've got a ton of different tournaments and opportunities for the everyday player to enjoy the sport outside of maybe their leagues and get some competition, regionally as well as nationally. And so big shout out to their expansion of how they are, the outreach and what they offer for all the players. Plus the wonderful event of this, what is this? How many nationals has there been? Somebody say 76? Is that right?
Something like that.
I don't know where I got that number, but maybe Isabel could.
Yeah, I'll ask it. Isabel knows everything. Let me go to my stats. Let me go to my Isabel stat file, Mike. I'll get right back to you on that.
And you notice in the last two games here, Patty, I've been waxing poetically. Is that the saying? But we see, Cruz and Lopez have definitely kind of found some footing here, and even though they didn't win that first game, the length of points we're starting to see a little bit more. They're in the games, they're lasting longer, they're kind of finding their footing.
(1935), Mrs. Henry Eaton, Mrs. Percival Fuller, Mrs. Hampton, and Mrs. Rockefeller, 6161, to take the first title in women's play, Mike.
It's 1935.
And since then, just so many remarkable champions in our sport. And, we have two of the jewels in our game out here with Liz Cruz. She has 3 national titles. Fleur Hanisch playing this tournament this weekend has 3 national titles. Gabby has 2. Anna Zabori has won 2 national titles. And Macy Elliott has won 2 national titles.
Pretty impressive.
I think what's impressive with these women, like Liz Cruz, take for example, she won in 2015 with Anna Brazova. She won in 2018 with Gabby Niculescu. She won in 2019 with Gabby Niculescu. You take Gabby Niculescu. She won with Martina Andreikova. I mean, so these players are used to retooling, you know, and I think a lot of the top players will look at the other top teams in the game, think about how their games match up with them on an everyday basis, tournament to tournament, and if they don't, then that's when you'll see partner changes.
I think a great thing about the sport too is that it is such a community that embraces the game, but it doesn't have the edge that while everybody out there is as competitive as anybody. I absolutely love that about platform tennis, is that just the way that the players they compete hard, but they also understand it's a community, and I think it's fantastic. I don't think you see that as much in big tennis.
No, not at all. We were talking about it yesterday, just the sharing of information between players. Like, how many times, Mike, have you gotten off the court, play a grueling 3-set match, you go into the paddle hut, maybe you have a couple beers after, and then you kind of talk about the match, and you beat someone and they're like, oh, it came down to that point. You hit an amazing shot. And you might say to that guy, hey, you hit a really stupid shot. You gave me the ball of life. That's what turned that match. Things like that. That never would happen in the tennis, in a high-level tennis at all.
Yeah.
Robin Fulton was here. The Fulton Cup is named after Robin Fulton, one of our game's amazing champions. And, I shared her story how, years ago, the first time I think I was ever on the court with Robin, she crushed me. I had no idea what to do, and I was just out there just reacting. And then I remember after the match, she gave me a few pointers and said, Patty, why do you do this and why do you do that? And I go, well, I don't know. I just don't have a better choice. I don't have Aeon in my life yet to make those, better choices. And I learned the game through so many of those conversations. You put yourself out there in tournament play. Mike, you're a great player, played a ton of tournaments. That takes you so far, but you still have to know the tactics and know when to make those meaningful tactical adjustments. I mean, the game is so nuanced, and that's why, with the ascent of some of these young players, particularly in the men's game, Nunes, Salazar, Regalado, it seems like they just walked on the court and they already had like 20 years of paddle playing in their back pocket, which to me is so remarkable because the game is so nuanced.
And it's almost like they've come off, they walk on the court and they've already had all that data uploaded.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, instead of being a paddle player 1.0, they're already in that 3.0 level.
Exactly. And obviously, outstanding tennis background aligns beautifully to become really successful in this sport.
You get a head start. But I think it's, I think it's an amazing thing to watch too at all of these levels. How, the difference, we've all played matches where it's a difference of 1 or 2 points. Well, if my tactics are wrong, it's tough to bridge that gap, to turn it into a 1 or 2 point difference, and you saw that in an earlier match that I called where they repeatedly, I think a newer team, they kept hitting, high down up overhead to Kaler's forehand. And, that's like number one. Let's change that. So it's for that, what do they call them? The Spanish Mafia? For them to be showing their successes so early is, to your point, incredible.
I mean, you'd love to see it, and you just scratch your head, and you're like, how come it took everybody else so much longer? It's
right.
It's just
coaching those guys.
There you go.
We know? Yeah.
Of course. And
It's
I
not
think
you,
that's
Patty?
no, I think it has to do a lot with the live stream, Mike. They get to, anybody
be,
coming into the
must be.
game gets to see this and gets to see what
Yeah.
the top players are doing, and then you walk on the court and you're like, okay, how do they hit this shot? And they figure it out. And because most of these top players are all, high-level teaching pros, they have a little advantage on tweaking their games over the
Absolutely.
average player.
And back to your point about kind of how it's. I remember playing Graham McInerney and his father, and I don't know if it was like at New York Athletic Club or somewhere at Nationals, and Graham was just starting, and we got off the court, and he was like, okay, what can I do better? I think he was still at student at Georgia. And he just wanted more and more information, and I think I coached him up pretty well. What do you think,
I think
Patty?
you did a phenomenal job with Graham, the winner of the APTA Tour Cup. He finished first in the standings this year, and
Boy.
received a $10,000 check at the
That beats a sharp stick
reception.
in the eye, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
And who won it on the women's side?
I believe we had a tie, and Macy Elliott and Lynn Burse came out with even number of points on top of the leaderboard. Henderson Zabori followed, and Morgan and Sikora followed. Hey, Mike, I want to talk to you a little bit about Santo Tequila, helmed by Sammy Hager and Guy Fieri. Santo of Gavi Ford. Additive-free tequila is made for those who believe that life is best when it's lived out loud. I mean, spot-on sponsor for the national championships. It's so important to hydrate during play and after play. And it's a party environment here. I mean, the country club has they're putting together, there's a great shot from one of the setups where the 6 courts are, and it's a giant cocktail party. It's such a festive event. So many players here, so many great fans here just loving the action. Obviously, this is a big weekend for Hall of Fame inductee Johan Duran, who's bringing out just hordes of players. And, I mean, the fans, they're just loving it. And everybody, everybody's thrilled Johan got through. He had a little scare in the first round match, had a 3-set win after losing the second set, and a lot of nervous people. So Johan and Steven righted their ship immediately and came through in that first round match.
And then did they split sets with Marino and the Chicago team? Or was that the 3-set that you were referring to?
Actually, it was with former national champ Hall of Famer Mike Stulak and Jeff Morneau.
So they went back-to-back 3-setters because the next
they
match. We had Danny Oakes and Mike Marino. They won the first set 6-2 or 6-3, and then lost 6-1, 6-1 after that. So.
Yep, Duran and Mitchell just pulled out their 16s match over Hirsch Wagner. Christian West are out there playing Broderick Kaler. Regalado and Salazar are out there playing Dennis and Friedrich. And on the other other 60 in the top half of the draw, Benheim and Murphy are playing Fraser Morgan.
But that'd be a match I'd like to watch.
Oh my gosh, everywhere you look, there's just star power play on every court. We have Araya and McNerney. They're playing against Prasenko, Vauclair. Ong and Steinman are out playing Humphreys and Osis Koning. Bostrom and Rams are playing Hansen and Wright. And Madik Cherinsky, thanks to that volley machine. Cherinsky, Nolan up against Nunes and Powers. Nunes and Powers snuck into the number 2 seed here in this tournament. Came out of nowhere, won the last 2 events, earned enough points, Mike, to earn the 2nd seed over Fraser and Morgan, who had been in that number 2 spot for
all season long. They were riding that 2nd spot, right?
Indeed.
Well, this speaks to the pressure that Halbauer and Niculescu put on Cruz and Lopez. Just you feel like it's so close to them, not breaking through, but kind of really getting into the second set. And lo and behold, it's 4-love.
And I hate to see it because I love to see close matches here, but when we went on the air, it's not necessarily surprising because, like I said, Halbauer and Niculescu, I mean, they are rock solid number 3 and 4 in the country all season long, and their losses have only been to the top 2 teams in the country.
Yeah. Well, and it's a testament to, it's a testament to how good they are that, score is what the score is. And it's, wow, it's very impressive. I mean, as much as I'd love to call a, three setter and breaker in the third, they're putting on quite a performance here.
Right, and it's the performance that they needed to put together to have a legitimate shot in the semifinals tomorrow, and in the finals, they hope. I think there's messages sent, right, Mike? You see, you look at the scores and you're like, holy cow, they took them out. And it looks like it could be 0-0. Shout out to Tim Mangan from Long Island. He's in the house. Karen Salerno. Salerno and Mangan are in the draw. Great young team from Long Island. And Karen Salerno is probably tied with David Chelson and Damian Johnson's #1 fans of live streaming anywhere around the country.
Love that guy. Big shout out. How about the Sugar Ray? Costa.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about an athlete. That guy, Got a text from him. He said, "You're doing a great job, Patty." He told me to shut up and just listen to you talk.
With friends like Ray, who needs enemies? No, that's so funny.
That's right.
Ray, we love Ray, and Ray does a great job. Really has helped behind the scenes for probably over 2 decades, Mike, helping with draws and seeds and rankings and all that kind of fun stuff that nobody really thinks about, but Ray thinks about it all the time. Plays out at Indian Trail Club, where Anthony Casamano is doing a great job as the new pro there. One of our favorite live stream announcers. Mike, it just seems like Cruz and Lopez don't have any answers. And I'm just so impressed. I'm always impressed with Niculescu, but Halbauer, to me, is playing a lights-out match here. So amazing on this big stage. And that, bodes really well for them. It looks like obviously they're going to reach the semis, and they needed this performance. And, I mean, it's going to be incredible semifinals tomorrow.
And I'm looking forward, not looking forward. I'm looking into the schedule here for. There's been some changes to the live stream as well as the draw, in the sense that I think there's some weather coming in. But we start tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. with the men's quarters, followed by the women's semis at noon, and then a men's semis at 2 as well as 4, and then the women's finals at 6:30 p.m.
Excellent. And Mike, one thing real fast here, in collaboration with the APTA, Fusion is at the forefront of personalized gear and apparel, backed by a team of seasoned industry experts. Fusion provides exclusive access to high-end products from top-tier retail brands, all poised for customization with your club logo, team name, or corporate branding. Our streamlined approach guarantees a hassle-free shopping experience, complemented by custom online storefronts and swift ordering. Visit www.gearbyfusion.com and let Fusion seamlessly weave your branding into elite merchandise. All right, Mike, must-have game? Duh.
This is, I've blown bigger leads than this, and I've said it before, so saying there's a chance. Let's go.
I mean, just this point, I don't know. I just hope that Cruz pulls another rabbit out of her bag here. I'd love to see her Just try to put together and pick off a game or two here. But I don't think it's happening because Niculescu and Halbauer not giving an inch. And you can see the focus with Halbauer and Niculescu. They came out here, and their goal was not only win the match, but get off the court as soon as possible and, you know, win every single
they're making
game.
a statement.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they are definitely making a statement here. You had mentioned the separation between not only the top two teams, but you know, then then you look at the third, fourth seeds, and then from 5, 6 and onward, you know, we've got like three different layers here.
Yes.
But boy, oh boy, it's been a pretty impressive match.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, again, I don't know how many errors they've made, and it puts a heck of a lot of pressure on the team. Try to that you've got to win the point. As we all know, this isn't a game of winners.
Right. I'm not sure they've made 7 errors as a team in this match, Mike. I'm not really sure. I wasn't counting, but it just feels that way. I think Lopez, you know, we see her out of the screen here. I think she's got to get back into the court. I want her to be closer to the baseline. Well, too late for that, Mike.
Too late for that, boy. Patty, that was Halbauer and Niculescu, 6-love over Cruz and Lopez. Any final thoughts on that match?
I think our comments summed it up, Mike, as we went along.
Yeah, and I mean, boy,
just flawless.
I look forward to seeing their next match, and I hope I'm lucky enough to call it because they're running white hot, and
yep, they'll play the winner of Jackson Maturka and Hannah Sabori. Okay,
well, we'll anxiously wait for that. And that's a wrap from the 2024 APTA Boston Nationals. What were we, the quarterfinals there? I'm Mike Raleigh along with Patty Hogan. Patty, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me, Mike. So fun.
Yeah, that was a real treat.
We'll be back tomorrow starting at 9:30.
What I love most about the volley machine is I can come down here and work on my game when I can't find friends.
Volley and I have been dating for several months now, and things are getting pretty serious.
My favorite thing about the volley trainer is to be able to work on the target, contact window, and tool all in my vision.
My favorite shot with the volley trainer is the push volley.
I really love the video feature of the volley machine. That has really helped me improve.